Flipping it up and out. Bogut! Ariza's blocked by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues, a basketball series. Myself, Andrew Bogut, and Mike Procopio from the States. How's it going?
Bogues, you know, you're a little bit of a fucking heathen today, trying to have it on Easter, but we have to provide for the listeners. So the 11 people that are listening to us, I want to make sure we got some content for them tonight.
It's not Easter in Australia, buddy. We don't care about you Americans. It's Monday here.
Point. Oh,
it's Monday.
That's right. That's right. What are you gonna do?
Usually, guys are ahead of us, except for with days. But a lot to get through as we record. Everything's just settled with the planes. Unbelievable last day of the season, and that's going to start me off with my team of the week. Pro is going to be the NBA.
Yeah,
the NBA gets the team of the week. They don't get it often, but the plane. We were kind of on the fence when they first announced it, as were a lot of people. Credit where credit is due. The NBA deserved the team of the week because this has been a phenomenal finish to the season. Look, teams kept it competitive, albeit Dallas, which we'll get to shortly, up until the last moment. And even to the last day, which was today, you had teams that historically, say you're in a 5th seed and you're like, shit, we like the 6-3 matchup better. That 3 seed we think we can beat. We don't want to play the 4 seed. Teams historically would lose that game to fall down, or all that kind of shenanigans was very hard to do. The NBA played all the games today, I believe, at the same time. Was that right, bro? They all started at the same time?
Yeah, like 2:30 was. Well, I think they had an early game, but most of them were like 2:30.
Around about the same time.
Or 3:30 Eastern. Yeah,
to stop people looking at results, but credit where it's due. These kind of dead rubber games that we usually see in March or April for these teams that are historically in the 9, 10, 11 spot, fought till the death. And we have our playing teams, which we'll get to shortly, that are solidified. And I think it was a good thing. So I'm going to give the NBA the team of the week, Pro.
You know what's funny, Bogues, that you do that. I gave the whole league the team of the week of the team, or whatever we call it, a WEA.
Okay.
Because these games have, besides today was decent. The last week of the season, Bogues, these games, ridiculous. I needed to get a cane and a CNI dog after my eyes bleeding watching some of this bullshit. Some of the players, I thought 5 of the players were dead in 3 of the games that I watched. I haven't heard about these guys in years, and they were in the starting lineup. Some of the stuff that they pulled the last week of the season was pretty rough.
The Portland Trail Blazers, the glorified G League team.
Seriously, no, don't pass go. Don't collect 200. Don't collect 200. You're playing in. You're gonna play in fucking. The worst federation. You have to play in like the Swiss basketball league next year for the shit they pulled in the last week of the season. It's crazy.
It was, but imagine how much worse it'd be without the planes. You then have 9, 10, and borderline 11 completely tanking. So it only kept 3 or 4 teams from each conference to do that. But yeah, the rest of it were at least competitive. But who you have for team of the week? You got one?
No, I don't. No, because it was all bad, Bogues. So let's hear your team of the week, because I have the whole league. What's your week of the team, or whatever we call it, the week team?
My week of the team, I'm going the Mavs. They're getting a 3-peat, Pro. This is 3 weeks straight for the Mavs.
Okay.
I think it's ridiculous that they basically put the white flag up. Now, I know mathematically they weren't in a good spot to get that 10, but they were still alive. And they intentionally tanked. Anyone with half a brain can see that they intentionally tanked. And look, do you blame them completely? Because the league kind of doesn't really penalize you. They're apparently going to investigate now. But for those not familiar, the Mavs were potentially a chance to get the 10th seed. This is where it all kicks in. Their trade they made a couple of years ago, the Porzingis trade, there's a pick in that trade that got sent to New York. If that pick falls out of the top 10 of the NBA draft in the following year, it goes to the New York Knicks. If it stays in the top 10, it goes to the Mavs. So the Mavs looked at that and said, shit, if we finish in the bottom 10, mathematically chances say we're going to get a pick in the top 10. Now, they still could get an 11 or 12, but the chances are much less. So it's more than obvious the Mavs have blatantly tanked to try and keep that pick, which is arguable. Would you do that if you're the GM? I mean, everyone's different. I mean, maybe. But the fact that they were still alive for a potential playoff berth and a play-in where all you need is 2 games for Luka and Kyrie to drop 40 and get hot and you're in a playoff series. That's the beauty of the play-in, to just wave the white flag up. I didn't like that. I think it smells. The NBA should investigate it. I wish there is a greater penalty for blatant tanks. The play-in was supposed to solve that, but now the issue is if you're 11, 12, 13, do you tank or do you go for a play-in? And that's what we've seen with the Mavs. The Mavs took the later. Cuban said, no, we're gonna make sure that we keep our pick. I don't want to send anything else to New York. And they get my week of the week, bro, because I think it's been a pretty dismal, I'd probably even say, week of the month for the Mavs. They've had a horrid 30 days.
Folks, they had a hard sort of 280 days, and they've had, it was a disastrous season. It was an underachieving nightmare, since July 1 of last year. And that's what it is. Now, from the Brunson, Brunson fiasco to, the Kyrie deal, giving up 2 good defenders and getting Kyrie back. And again, I don't think Kyrie was terrible for that team. I thought he put up good numbers. Some of the times that I actually got a chance to see them play, it didn't look terrible. It just, they didn't get the results. They can't guard anybody. They need rim protection. They don't have that. They don't have an elite rim protector. They don't have, their shot makers were just very average this year around Luka and Kyrie. The biggest thing for me, Bogues, is I'm not mad at all that what the Mavs did, because I'll tell you why. This team's dead this year. At the end of the year, they were awful. Like, they were just limping into things. There was no chance, in my opinion, they were getting out of the plan. So, you get the lottery in the United States, you get the Powerball, right? Powerball is usually somewhere in like $100 million range. And everybody's like, someday it's great to win the lottery, 100 million, this and that. But you're not drawn to play the lottery until when? Until you hear it's at like 1.4 billion. Now everyone wants to play it because, it's 1.4 billion, we got to get on it. For them to either limp through, win that game, and then win today against San Antonio, and then get into the play-in, and, probably going to lose, if not in the first round of that, the second sort of round of that, or have a 3% chance to get Victor. And I don't know what Victor's going to become. Obviously, he's the most hyped thing, in the last 50 years in the NBA. But for me, with the Mavs, if I'm them, looking at what that team's done, especially in the last 6 weeks of the season, I'm like, fuck this. I'm like, let's throw a hat in the ring. What I am mad about, Bogues, with teams who do this, teams who start this shit in fucking December, tanking blatantly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? So for them, look, I've been hard on the Mavs when I need to be hard on the Mavs. My thing is like, fuck it. If I'm not going to go anywhere, I got no chance of doing even close to what I did last year in the playoffs. I'm saying, fuck it, folks. I'm not going to play. They want to find me $1 million, find me $1 million. But I'm going to get this pick, get a chance to get this kid, which you're probably not going to get it. But you might as well try for it and then just reset this thing for this year, because coming up, I'll tell you what, this is the most important part of the Mavericks' future, probably in the last 15 years, what they do with this Kyrie situation. Do you sign him? Do you trade him, sign and trade him? Because if you don't get this right, and you don't get these shooters and defenders around Luka and or Kyrie, whatever you're going to do, then it's going to be a nuclear winter. I think Luka's frustrated. Anybody would be from the last year what happened. But I don't think he's ready to leave. I just think he's frustrated from losing and obviously what they did last year in the playoffs versus this. But I'm not that mad with Bogues what they did. I think throwing your hat in the ring for this kid is worth it, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it's been like you said, it's been a bad season for them. Overall.
It has.
But they're just been horrid. I think they should be much better than what they are, and it goes to show you when you trade, I'm going to say it again, valuable role players. Yes, those valuable role players don't equal a Kyrie Irving, but collectively around a guy like Luka Doncic, it looks much better when you got good role players that are okay with their role rather than getting just another superstar. So that's how the mix of that worked. All right, let's get to the awards real quick, Pro.
Yep.
I want to get your thoughts on. We'll start the MVP. I'm going to run through the 4 candidates that are in contention right now and their numbers. You've got Nikola Jokic. He's in contention, obviously. He's 24.5 points a night, 11.8 rebounds, 9.8 assists. So just below a triple-double. I think that was a little bit affected by the last probably couple of weeks of the season. They were resting guys, and then he didn't look like he was completely engaged those last probably week. Next one, you got Jason Tatum. He's 30.1 points, 8.8 rebounds, 4.6 assists. You also have Joel Embiid, 33.1 and 10 rebounds a night with 4 assists. And you have Giannis, who is always in the mix at very similar numbers to Embiid, actually, 31.1, 11.8, and 5.7 assists. So Giannis, really good numbers, actually, and probably not spoken about enough. But those are the 4 candidates, Pro. Make your call.
Bogues, I'm going to go with Joel Embiid.
Okay.
Well, look, I've been a Jokic guy, and I think it's been a great race between, I think, those two. I think Tatum was hot early in the mid part of the year, but on one case you could say, well, whenever Denver he doesn't play, they get blasted, versus Philly still has a chance with their team without Embiid. But I think Embiid, what he's done this year has been great. I think he scored it, rebounded to a high level, played a little bit of defense. I think when you see those clips of Jokic playing defense, you're like, what the fuck? But as magical as his passes are, I mean, he's one of the best passing big men I've ever seen. But I'm going to go with Embiid. I don't care about the three-peat deal. I don't care either way. I'm not really trying to say, well, I'm not going to do that because I don't want him to win 3 in a row. I just think Embiid, what he did this year was pretty great. He played in a decent percentage of his games. Played in about 81% of his games this year. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Embiid this year. Bogues, what do you got? You got Jokic?
I had Jokic. I mean, he's finished the season, hasn't been great, but the numbers don't lie. They're the number 1 seed.
Yep.
They absolutely suck when he's out of the lineup. His defense isn't great. He's an okay positional defender because he's got a high IQ, but yeah, his defense isn't great. But I'd also argue Embiid's not great at times, stretches as well. And Tatum goes through lapses. Giannis is probably the best defender out of that bunch, in my opinion. But yeah, I just think based on the number 1 seed, I have to give it to Jokic and has to go 3-peat. I don't like the fact that Embiid's, promoting himself for it overly, I think, and pouting about it if he doesn't get it already. He's kind of putting that messaging out there, whereas the other 3 guys haven't really mentioned it, and Jokic hasn't mentioned it at all. Tatum really hasn't gone out there. Giannis was asked about it a couple of days, and he said, yeah, of course I'd love to win it, but I'm not going to go out there and overly promote myself for it because there's a lot of deserving candidates. So based on that is why I don't like Embiid, winning it, just because and the NBA historically has frowned upon that. They say they don't, but we see it with, all-star nods and all NBA awards that usually people that pout about it and cry about it don't get the nod the next season or they get punished for it. They'll say that's not true, but we clearly see it as evidence historically in the NBA. So, but I think Jokic should win it, but who do I think will win it? I think it will be Embiid because I think there will be some voter fatigue. I think that, Denver's done well, Philly's done pretty well as well. So I think it'll come down to voter fatigue and something new and shiny. And I think Embiid's been kind of left out the last couple of seasons, and they'll give it to him based on that. So that's who I think will win it, but I think Jokic should win it.
Do you think Perkins? You think Perk is going to go around to all those racist white voters and make sure they vote accordingly, or what do you think? You think there's going to be, do you think there's going to be an investigation? What do you feel on it?
Who knows, man? Maybe we'll bring Steve Nash and Dirk along with him to hand the trophy to Embiid. Maybe those 2 guys should hand the trophy to Jokic if he wins it. And Perk can carry it over to those 2 guys, and those 2 guys can lift it up. But who knows, man? It's there's human bias in the voting as well. So
sure.
The media is obviously biased, and there's guys that treat media better and worse and whatnot, and that plays a part whether you like it or not. So will be interesting with that. That's my picks for there. All right, Rookie of the Year. These are our candidates. Banchero is the obvious one. Mathurin from the Celts, Jaden Ivey, and Kessler's actually popped up to be a candidate. He's not going to win it, but he's at least popped up, which is pretty impressive. I'll run through the numbers. So Banchero, 20 points a night, 7 rebounds, 3.7 assists. In an Orlando Magic that I think did really well this season, considering you look outside their record. Pro mentioned it earlier, months ago, that they play above their record, and they definitely did this season. So congratulations to them. I think they had a great season and a great step forward towards building. Benedict Mathurin, 16.7 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Had a great season off the bench for most of that season. Jaden Ivey, very similar numbers, 16.3 points, 3.9 rebounds, 5.2 assists. And Walker Kessler, not scoring a lot, 9.2, but 8.4 rebounds and 2.3 blocks. Already an elite shot blocker in the league. So there are 4 candidates. Pro, who do you have out of those?
I say Banchero. I mean, as much as I like Kessler, and as much as Mathurin from the Pacers has done really well this year, and his 6-man role, and they just sort of brought him along, and he had some great numbers this year, and he had a great run. But I think Banchero is a fellow Italian too, by the way. So of course I'm a little biased towards that. So I like don't hate me, Perk, but that's just the way it is. But I think that Banchero has been easily the better player. I like those 3 guys below him. I think that would be a great contest between who would win the second place out of those 3, because they're all good their own way. But I think Banchero has been really consistent. What I was worried about him early on, Bogues, he missed a bunch of games early. So I was worried about that 70% early in the year that he had to play to be eligible for some of these things. But I'm glad he picked it up. I think he led that team. He carried that team. He was a very good player. He's going to be good for years to come. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree. It's clear that he's the best rookie in the league. And like I said, fun to watch. Seems like he got better towards the end of the season too, was more comfortable with taking a few more threes and really acclimatized to the NBA and just a competitor. So I think that will be our winner for the Rookie of the Year. All right, Most Improved Player. This one's a tough one. Candidates are all over the place. The bookies have Malcolm Brogdon as the favorite. He's at 14.9 points, 4.2 rebounds, 3.7 assists on a Celtics team that had a great year. Manuel Quickly is in there as well, 14.9 points, 4.2 rebounds, 3.4 assists off the bench for New York, obviously, being the 6-man. Malik Monk, 13.5 points, 2.6 rebounds, 3.9 assists. Norman Powell's in there, 17 a night with 3 rebounds and 2 assists. There are guys. I think Monk's 5th or 6th. I think he should be higher, just based on the season Sacramento had. And I know his numbers probably aren't as great as some of the other guys by a couple of points, but he seemed to be a guy that really won them games off his own bat a lot. Brogdon's on a very good team. Quickly's also on a pretty good team, and Powell's on a great team. But Powell's numbers are the best out of this group. But I think this is a tough one for me. But I would actually lean more towards Malik Monk, to be honest with you, just based on Sacramento's record and the turnaround they've had, and him coming off the bench and being that spark, that microwave that when they had a couple of games where things weren't going right, Fox wasn't playing well, he'd come in and hit some big shots for him. So he's an outsider, but I'm going to go with Malik Monk, bro. Who you got?
Bogues, I'm going to go with Tyrese Maxey.
I didn't even mention you guy. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like Maxey because last year he put up some numbers. I think he averaged about 17 a game. And he was a good player. Don't get me wrong. He put up some points and he was a good player. But I thought this year he really took a step up in being able to carry a team. And I think that comes with maturity and development. And I think that he's done a good job, even though his numbers only went from 17 to 20. I think they really weigh on him heavily at times. And sometimes he's a better player, in my opinion, than Harden on the floor. Of course, Harden's a better player, in my opinion, overall, but Maxey's done a lot to really carry his team. And just talking about those other guys quickly, Brogdon's already been a really good player on other stops. He's good in Milwaukee. He was really good in Indiana, and he's done a great job with sort of the 6th year done a great job with that 6-man role with that. With Powell was really good in Toronto, was really good in Portland, and has done well since he's been in the Clippers. He's always had that role. Monk, I agree with you. Monk has done really well with up in his game. But I really do think, and he had like a 50-plus point game this year, if I'm not mistaken. But Maxey, I think, has really taken a step up and been able to carry a team versus which I think he was a player that put up numbers, but not a team carrier last year. I think he really took that step in his development over the summer and over the season. So I'm going to go with Maxey.
That's a fair one. Yeah, I should have mentioned that one. 20.3 points and 2.9 rebounds, 3.5 assists. Definitely in the running as well. I think Maxey's probably a very good candidate out of the Eastern Conference. So we'll see how that plays out. But the favourite by the bookies is Brogdon, so that's interesting. All right, most improved player. This one I'm going to read. I'll read out the players that I've got, and then I'll read out their previous seasons and this season, just so everyone can be familiar with the jump they've made. First candidate, Lauri Markkanen. Second one is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA. Mikal Bridges third. Jalen Brunson fourth. Now there's a few other candidates, but I think these are the top four in my opinion. Markkanen first. So this season he averaged 25.6 points, 8.6 rebounds, and just under 2 assists a night. Last season he was at 14.8 points, 5.7 rebounds and an assist a game. So he's upped his scoring by over 10 points. He's upped his rebounding by just on 3 and around about an assist a game better, and shot the ball much better from 3 at almost 40%. That's Markkanen. Shai Gilgeous, really good season for him. He averaged 31.4 points, 4.8 rebounds, 5.5 assists, as opposed to last season, 24.5 points, 5 rebounds and 5.9 assists. So he's improved in scoring by 7 odd points, but he's declined in rebounding and assists by just a little bit. So keep that in mind for people out there. Mikal Bridges, he's gone from, what is he averaging? So I'm not going to count Phoenix. Let's just count Brooklyn because it was 27 games. But overall for the season, he was 20 points. But with Brooklyn, he was 26 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. Last season in Phoenix, he was 14 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. So he's improved his scoring by 12. All the other numbers are about the same. And the final candidate, Jalen Brunson, Dallas last season, he was at 16 points a night with 5 assists and 4 rebounds. And this season he's jumped up to 24 points, 6 assists, and just under 4 rebounds. So assists have jumped 1.5, and his scoring has upped by 8. Pro, who do you have out of those 4 as a most improved player?
Bogues, probably going to go. This is a hard one, but I think it's going to go to Markkanen. Just because of what he's done as far as up in his sort of, his value in the league, in the sense that, like, in the other stops that he had, Chicago most of his career, Cleveland, like, had some flashes about being really good, but I think in Utah really, took the bull by the horns this year and really upped his game. I thought him and Brunson were neck and neck as far as, because those other players are already like really good in their roles. Bridges, I just think he hasn't been in Brooklyn long enough because of the trade deadline stuff, to really get a fair evaluation of that. But I think Markkanen has really led that team and carried that team. SGA has had that role for a couple years now. Brunson, I thought, because he didn't have that role and he was asked to be the best player in New York, he didn't have that role in Dallas. He was really asked to up his game like that. Most players in those situations, they put up points, but they're not able to carry a team. And I thought he was able to do that. But I think that Markkanen, it was dominating at times and being able to do it from all over the court. And I thought that, I thought that he was really good across the board. 25, 8, and 25 and 8, and shooting almost 50 from the field, basically 50 from the field, 87 line, and 39 from the 3. So I'll give it a Markkanen. What do you think? Who'd you have, Bogues?
Yeah, I got Markkanen as well. A massive jump, and just how he did it. He hit some big shots for him in numerous games. Hit some big key buckets late in games, and it's not the other guys didn't, but his jump has been probably the biggest. I think SGA is already a star. I think the second candidate for me will be Brunson as well. So I think it's out of Markkanen and Brunson. but I think Markkanen's going to get it. I mean, no one expected. We all had Utah picked as last, and they competed for the most part. They should be very proud of their season, considering they still were competitive and got their guys better, but they're going to be in the market for Victor as well. So they've had a really successful season when it comes down to that. But I think Markkanen's getting that one. Coach of the year. Should we even discuss this? I think these are candidates: Mike Brown, Mike Malone, Joe Mazzulla. I think we're both in agreement that Mike Brown's got this locked, bro.
Yeah, I wouldn't even consider anybody else, to be honest with you. I think, from where you and I had Sacramento in the beginning of the year to where they ended up, I mean, it's ridiculous. He's done a great job. Not even close. I would just give it to him, lock, stock, and barrel.
Yeah, I think not just us, I think the whole world. I mean, just where Sacramento's been, a basket case for a franchise, he's brought some stability there. They finished 48-34. Good enough for a distant third in the Western Conference. They've got a tough matchup in Golden State, which we'll do those previews next week once we have the planes settled and we know who the seeds are, but should be commended. I mean, it's not an easy place to go in and turn culture around and get better, but they look like they've got a group that's bought into it and they're playing good basketball. Mike Malone's done a fantastic job again in Denver with the number 1 seed, and Mazzulla obviously has done very well considering the circumstances of what the Celtics went through. So, but I just think Mike Brown's going to be the unanimous. It won't even be close. Executive of the Year, Kobe Altman, Cavs, Danny Ainge, Utah Jazz, Leon Rose, New York Knicks, pro. What's your thoughts?
Man, I wish I could give it a Presti, but, obviously out of those 3 names, I'd probably give it a Danny Ainge, for what he's done with, the heist he took out of, without getting arrested, what he did to Minnesota. And then just the pieces he was able to really have for that team, as well as Will Hardy's one of the better young coaches, was able to hire him and was able to put that franchise in the right spot. Look, you not only to the trade you got with all those picks, you got Walker Kessler, who's going to be, in my opinion, better than Rudy Gobert very shortly, probably the next couple of years, 2.5 years. I think he can go over because I think he's better offensively. And he doesn't really have a right hook to throw in huddles like the other guy. But I think that he's going to be just that team, how he constructed it and what he did in a short period of time. I'm giving it a Danny Ainge.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. I think Altman's done a similar type thing previously in Cleveland with a lot of young talent, and now bringing in Mitchell. Ainge has just stocked the shelf completely with luxury goods with all the picks that they've got. This one's going to be a close one. Even Leon Rose, going out and getting Brunson and whatnot. So, but I think you're right. I think Ainge will get it just because Utah were meant to be so bad and their future's bright. They've got a lot of good young pieces on that team, and they've got a lot of guys that were doubted. Horton Tucker by you, pro. He's playing really well in Utah, actually.
No doubt. Yeah, I couldn't stand him.
It's just the same as your curse you put on. Who was that Magic guy? Mo Bamba, who's now in the Lakers.
Mo Bamba. Same no Bamba.
But Mo Bamba hasn't played that well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ainge, out of Ainge and Altman, in my opinion, will be crowned the executive of the year. All right, that's the awards. Moving on, it's WWE week in the NBA, pro. What the hell's going on? We've got today Rudy Gobert and who was it? Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson, was it?
Yeah, Kyle Anderson.
Yeah, Kyle Anderson got into a little bit of a scuffle on the bench. Reportedly, Woj just said that it was Gobert had a shot at Anderson. Now, what's funny about this? Give me some context to this. So, just a day or two ago, I think Rudy Gobert was asked about Kyle Anderson and his kind of the way he goes about things, and apparently very direct kind of teammate will call you out and go at you and whatever. So for some reason, Rudy was asked about that not long ago, and his answer was along the lines of, I know he's always coming from a good place. Sometimes he oversteps the mark, but I know he's doing it from a good place, so I'd never take it kind of personally. Sometimes he goes at you and blah, 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 blah. Well, Gobert took it personally because he's swung at Anderson on the bench. For those of you who haven't seen it, you can jump on YouTube and look at the highlights of the punch. Wasn't much of a punch. He missed and hit him in the chest, but reportedly Woj said that Gobert told Anderson to grab a rebound, and Anderson told Gobert to block a shot. Now, I assume there was profanities and a few more things in there, but that was the interesting one. That was a bit of a brawl, so pressure getting to guys. Another one today was Plumlee and Bones Highland in the Clippers got into it in a full face-to-face little shove. And finally, McDaniels got into it with a wall pro. He punched a wall. Was that at halftime on the way out?
I thought it was after the game, or maybe... I don't know. Yeah, it was sometime.
No, because he missed the rest of the game. I think it might have been. I think there was time left anyway, but he punched a wall and has clearly hurt his hand and might be in some trouble. So pressure getting to some people, pro, in these planes.
Well, Bogues, it's funny that one person didn't see anything on social media, so they didn't copy it based on what happened in the other game. It's sort of like the pyramids, where pyramids were built like 3 or 4 places around the earth where there was no communication, no one's talking to each other, yet they knew how to, build a pyramid the same exact way. Same thing, like 2 different fights, 2 different spots, on the same day. It was ridiculous. It was weird. Now, look, I think it's a little different in my opinion what happened like Draymond punching out at a teammate, where I think that you get caught up in the heat of the moment. It's not right to throw a punch at a teammate. That's never right. I don't care if you're in practice, in a game, what have you. But you know how it is. End of the year, they probably, one guy probably was mad at the other guy because he took his load management pod from him yet last game, or took the trainer's table away from him. I don't know what happened.
Jumped the omelet line.
Exactly. Jumped the omelet line. Yeah, exactly. But look, that stuff happens. It's heat of the moment, heat of the game. You
can't swing though. You can't swing.
No, I'd suspend him. I don't care. I'd suspend him for the rest of the playoffs.
For playing?
Yeah,
wow.
I would, for sure. You don't do that because you embarrass your whole organization in one swing. In my opinion, that you did that. I'm all for it, folks. I'm all for. Yes, it's not as bad as what Draymond did with that punch early on with Poole, but you still throw a punch at a teammate, and you don't do that. You can get in somebody's face, and you could swear, you could make fun of his mother, you could do whatever you want. But once you decide you got to throw a punch, I don't care if it hits you in the chest, in the face, in the head, whatever. That's it. With McDaniels, that was a moronic fucking move. Coaches, players, I fucking hate it when guys punch walls, think they're tough guys, because you know why, Bogues? Just like Father Time, the fucking wall always wins. All right, and now you just fractured your fucking shit. Always wins. You fractured your shit because you wanted to be a tough guy and fucking punch a wall. There's no reason. I tell players all the time, dude, get composure. You could swear. I don't even like when they throw things, but to punch a wall is fucking moronic. And now you fractured your hand.
Remember Amari punched a break glass in case of emergency.
Yeah.
Fire extinguisher thing. Remember, cut his whole hand open.
Yeah.
For a playoff series, wasn't it?
It's moronic. So. And now you're gonna cost. Both those guys could cost their team a play-in victory. And it's just you just put yourself in front of your team. Look, and I understand it's heat of the battle. They're probably tired of shit. Fucking Clippers. Clippers were fucking losing. They're up and down all year. They got a shitty seed. They're probably pissed. It's the end of the year. People are sick of each other. You've been through that, Bogues. Where guys, I don't care if you win or lose.
It's a long season.
It's a long year, and you got all this shit you're dealing with, and you just fucking had it, and you get look at staff members. I've seen staff members fight. I've seen them, get in arguments and stuff, just like little shit at the end of the year. It happens, but you never throw a punch. I would suspend them. I'd suspend that. I would suspend Rudy the rest of not the rest, but definitely for the next game because you embarrass your organization. And you embarrass yourself.
I think surely they won't suspend him for the playing. Sure, maybe for next season.
Won't.
Maybe they give him like the first 3 games of next season or something like that.
Yeah.
But you surely, or maybe they ask the team. Maybe they have a team meeting and say, "Hey, going into a play-in, do you guys want one of the best defensive centers out there, or we're happy to suspend him? We're going to leave it up to the group." Maybe they empower the players and see what they say. I think most guys would say, "Look, let's put it behind us. Let's try to win a game, get to the playoffs, and then handle it beyond that."
You ever had that happen, Bogues?
We have, yeah. I think we have. National team, we definitely have. With with the NBA, I've been on both ends. I've been on playing empowerment teams, and I've been on Iron Fist from coach and management teams. So I think you need a mix. I think you definitely want to have a discussion with. I think it'd be a good idea from having a discussion with players, but you want to be careful. Sometimes those meetings can go the wrong way as well. It could be another punch thrown, and then you got to do another meeting about that punch, right? So it's the NBA. It's the young and the restless, the days of our lives. But yeah, I highly doubt they'll suspend him for the playing game. But I think he should definitely. He might just get a really big fine, something like that. But we'll see how that goes. All right, the NBA's announced the details of the long-awaited in-season tournament, bro. You're just sitting on the edge of your chair waiting for this, but the new details have emerged. Basically, get your head around this. The teams will be divided within their own conference into 6 pools of 5 teams each. Mm-hmm. The pools will not necessarily be done to mirror the regular divisions. Those teams will play each other once. Each team will play 2 home games and 2 road games. So, 4 games total. The 6 teams that win each pool, plus 2 wildcard teams, will advance to the single elimination portion of the tournament. Tiebreakers are still to be determined. The 4 teams that advance to semifinals will play in a Final Four style setup at a neutral site. The final will take place in similar fashion at a neutral site. As has been previously reported, the winners will receive $500 apiece.
500,000.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't see how this is going to go. I wasn't for the play-in. I don't think I'm for this, but maybe it'll go really well. But the neutral site thing's interesting because teams will be like, wait, we don't make money out of this. We can't now. So they get a revenue share of the tickets if it's in a different city. And then will people go in a different city to see, let's say it's Indiana versus Sacramento in New York City? Will they go, bro? That's the other question.
Yeah, Bogues, I think that, look, what David Stern was so good at is being able to sell things, sell the league, sell ideas to players, and flex his muscles a little bit to the player. And I think that Adam Silver has to be able to do this for the betterment of the league, because you have to be able to get your stars in a room. And I don't care if you visit them individually, get them all in at one point and talk to them and be like, look, this is for the betterment of everybody, because obviously this is for TV. They're going to sell this to Amazon. They're going to sell it to some package where it's going to be a big revenue maker if, in fact, this thing's a hit. I don't know if people will go. Definitely the first year they will. Maybe the second year as well. I'm not a big fan of it. I just think that players aren't really going to be all that more excited. But I think that you have to flex your muscles because, if this thing sells, your BRI goes up, everybody gets paid. And it's something new, because I think the league is exhausted at almost everything they can do. The All-Star Game's a fucking joke. The dunk contest is a fucking joke. Like, you need something to sell that's something new that you can make money off of. And I think you've done most of what you can do with revenue. Hey, look, the gambling stuff's going to take off, although I don't know if that really helps the league as much as it helps the DraftKings of the world. I don't think the league benefits from that much. But I think that you're going to have to sell this. And, the only way you're going to sell it is have your stars really get behind it. And I don't know if they will get behind it because financially it's not going to be a big deal for them. But, and that's the problem. You sell this to MJ, Bird, Magic. They were in a different era. They understood the future of the league and what's good for the future of the league. These guys today, they make so much money. That is the future. I mean, they're going to continue to make that money, and I don't think they care as much about the future of the league. I think that a lot of it's just lip service. So as Adam Silver needs to be able to sell this. I'm not a fan of it. It'll be interesting, Bogues, what they do, because, like your pool games, you could sort of take care of it during the regular season. WNBA sort of does something like this a little bit. They call it the something cup. And I think the G League does it as well. But okay, so now you go to the quarterfinals, the 6 plus the 2 teams. So does that count? Like if Sacramento plays Indiana, and they play them in that, do they have to take a game off? Because I know from listening to some podcasts, they said that the finals teams in this is going to get an 83rd game. The other teams are just going to work out in their schedule. So I'm just saying, if I play Sacramento and Indiana in the playoffs in the quarterfinal, do they have to take away a game during the regular season if they play each other And that's the. I'm sure they'll answer those questions. But my thing in Bogues is this is up to Adam Silver to sell this. This is why he makes 30 plus million or whatever he makes. Like, this is the hard part of the job that you're gonna have to sell, because I don't think many players are excited about this. If I had to guess, Bogues, that's my take on it. What's your take?
Yeah, I don't know. I need to wait and see how this goes. The games actually count to your record too, right?
Yeah,
don't they? Mm-hmm. That's what they said initially. I didn't see that in this statement, but initially when they announced this, it counts to your regular season record. I don't know, man. So I'll ask you, if Sacramento versus Indiana are in the final and it's in Dallas, you're going to go watch?
Fuck no.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I mean. It's just, I don't understand it. I don't understand the neutral venue and all that kind of stuff. I think if they had home games, like based on maybe do percentage. So if you have the best percentage, so you've smashed the teams the most, you get a home final. But it's yet to be seen. Who knows? The neutral venue's obviously getting. Yeah, the neutral venue is obviously going to be somewhere that's not an NBA city. Is my suspicion.
Yeah,
Vegas, Kansas City, St. Louis. One of those cities. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, look, we weren't all in on the planes. Maybe this fools us in a year's time. But this one, I'm way lower on than I was the plane.
Right. Yeah, I agree, Bogues. I think that, again, this is all for let's sell it. It's not just about having a tournament and being like the ACB or the EuroLeague or something like that, or ACB. I don't think the EuroLeague does something like this, but or I think the domestic leagues do. But this is for selling for TV to a streaming service to increase the BRI and to get everybody going. They're going to do it in Vegas for the finals. They're going to sell the gambling aspect of it. People are going to be excited to gamble on it. I don't think they're going to be excited for the games, but they will be excited to gamble on it. And I think that, that's what they're going to do, and that's what they're going to sell it to. And that's, and they're trying to get some excitement behind it. So when they sell this package, it's going to up the BRI and everybody's going to make money off of it. I just don't know if there's a huge selling point to it. Maybe the first year you can get people excited, but you're going to have to continue to tweak this to keep because these players are not going to be engaged. Look at what's happened in the regular season, Bogues, especially in the second half of the year. Nobody gives a fuck. And for $500,000, they can just do some fucking ad or something and get most of those guys. I mean, there's some fucking bums getting huge fucking deals in sponsorship these days. And look, good for them. So if you're going to say, well, we're going to give you 500,000. Yeah, if this was 1993, you get people running to this. But it's not 1993. All these guys are making a shitload of money off the side, outside of basketball as well. So I just think that it's going to be a hard sell down the line, but you're right. You and I weren't really in on I definitely wasn't in on the play-in. I think I've turned the corner on it pretty much, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it's and then what part of the season have they said is the tournament? They haven't announced that though yet, right?
No, they haven't.
I assume mid-season. So, if you're a team you want to have it mid-season, because if you're later on in the year like we see now, if you have it in February or something, you got injuries for the playoffs, and then you've also got teams that really don't give a shit. So it will be interesting to see how that all goes. All right, the rumors are already being put out there for Luka leaving in 2024, Pro. Now I checked the calendar and we're in 2023, so we're a year away. But the rumors are already out there that I'm not sure if he's planted that seed, but some pretty big journalists in Dallas and the US have already started putting that out. That's either his agency or him, or trying to leverage the Mavs to actually do something again in the off season. But it's interesting that this has started this early, Pro.
Yeah, Bogues, I just think the league is like Groundhog Day. This happens to every really good player that has a team that's struggling. Regardless if it's true or not, there's going to be a rumor out there. It sells. It's clicky. You could say, oh, he's not happy. Look, he's obviously frustrated. And a lot of stuff has happened in the last few weeks, obviously the Kyrie thing, them asking about Brunson after one of the practices, and he said he misses Brunson very much. So he's been down. Look, he's a competitive dude. He went from the Western Conference Finals to not making the play-in. Besides maybe LeBron James, I don't think it's ever happened to a player at that caliber. So of course he's going to be pissed. For the Mavericks, I think you have to sit this offseason and the next, breathe for a couple weeks, and then you have to reevaluate from top to bottom what you're doing as an organization, and you have to change. Something clearly isn't working, and I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but you have to reevaluate how you do things. Because look, you have a lot of control over this. Now, the Brunson thing took a lot of air out of your sails because you let a borderline all-star player go for way less than market value, and then you lost him in regular free agency. So we know that going forward. Just say, hey, look, we fucked up. We got to move forward from that. Then you throw on top of it, you let go of two really popular really high-level role players in Dorian and Dinwiddie, for Kyrie Irving. You got to figure out what you're going to do with Kyrie Irving. How you treat Kyrie Irving right now is the most important thing you're going to do as an organization. I told you, in that last 15 years. You got to figure out, you're going to sign him? Are you going to take the offseason because you got him so late in the year? Maybe you could rekindle him. I doubt you can, but let's just say in the sake of argument, you can. And then you give him a max deal for 2 years or a year plus a second option, if he even takes it. And then you're going to build your team from there. The problem is you don't guard anybody. Your roster doesn't have a rim protector on it. And you don't have proper shot makers that could really play. You need defenders around those guys and a rim protector, and you need shot makers. So you have to retool your roster like that. Or do you sign and trade Kyrie somewhere? We mentioned it a million times. I think the three places you're going to really look at this is you're going to look at AD in LA if things go bad there. You're going to look at Bradley Beal, if he has a trade, he could veto trades because he's been in Washington long enough. So you're going to look at Bradley Beal in Washington, and then you're going to look at Tyrese Maxey in something else in Philadelphia in a sign and trade. So whatever you do now with whatever money you have in free agency, with how you deal with Kyrie is gonna really see about what happens with Luka long term. I think Luka's just frustrated. Any competitor would be. But yeah, that could turn into another thing. But that's what all these superstars do anyway. Not there's no Kobe's or there's no, Dirks anymore that's going to stay for 20 years. You're going to lose a guy for sure. Are you going to lose him next year? Maybe. But I think you really have to reevaluate how you gather information, how you evaluate players, how you evaluate trades, how you evaluate free agency, everything from player development to anything else. I thought they did a pretty good job of player development with Green and Hardy. I think they have two nice little pieces there, but they need shooting, they need rim protection, and you got to figure out what you're going to do with Kyrie, if you're going to re-sign him or you're going to sign and trade. If you lose him for nothing, it's not going to be good. So you got to figure out what you're going to do there, in my opinion. So that's what I think. What are your thoughts?
You have a bit of cap space though, right? If you lose him,
what's up?
You have a bit of cap space though.
Yeah, you'll have a little bit. Yeah, because they lose him. Yeah, they lose him and Wood this year off the cap.
Yep.
So
yep.
Yeah,
I doubt they're bringing back Wood. So yeah, it will be interesting. They're in a bit of a conundrum. Right, finally, Silas appears to be out of Houston, and Casey's out of Detroit. Both respective head coaches, are out in Detroit, and is moving to the front office. So I assume Detroit said, look, we're still paying you, so you're going to still come to work, but we're going to put you in the front office to help us out. No surprises there. Casey a little bit, because I thought they would have went a bit more long haul with him. They brought him in to kind of rebuild it, and they probably thought not the right guy. Silas, the writing was on the wall for months, if not a year, that he would be out. But I think that's a suicide job for most people that take it. We know Udoka's linked to it. He's probably the one guy who's hard-headed enough, but also a very good communicator that could pull it off. But they've got a dumpster fire of young guys there that are very talented, but not team guys. So they're in some trouble. And I think Detroit has some potential. Detroit has potential to be decent in the next couple of years with their roster. So interesting to see who they get there. I know there's a few candidates interviewing for that job as we speak. So nothing too big on those two pro, nothing too surprising, but the carousel started. Yeah,
it's going to start. You're probably going to have 3 or 4 more other, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 other places, and then there's going to be that one place that you didn't think was going to open. That's going to open. Either an older coach that just says "fucking I'm out," or some just a team makes a move. I think you'll see that. You're right with Silas. Unfortunately, look, that's the problem. There's only 30 of these jobs, and to be honest with you, that's probably a great move that he made to go there, because if he stayed another year with Carlisle and then they got fired, that there's no guarantee that he could have got another job at that point. So he cuts his teeth, first head job. But that's a lot of these jobs, Bogues. You're going to take bad teams. The problem is if you're going to take bad teams that are just going to smother you with young players and not a lot of good veterans, it's going to be really hard for you to win games. Nobody wins games on coaching in this league. Like, no one makes huge jumps because of your great coaching. It really brings you over the top if you have a great coach. But I think Stephen Silas and Mike Weiner were 2 guys that were 2 of the probably the most high IQ offensive minds I've been around as assistants since I've been in the league, around the league, and they were really good. And Stephen is not a better professional, a better gentleman, and a nicer guy than him. And he's going to get, pick of the litter for associate head coaching jobs and lead assistants, because the guy is just class. He's smart, and he's a great communicator, and he's a great dude. It's a bad job. And he knew it, but you know what? These fucking bad jobs pay an average of about $3.5 million. Give me a fucking bad job any day. I had a bad job, and trust me, it didn't pay $3.5 fucking million. So.
Fair enough. We'll see who else moves around. Playing previews real quick. We won't go too in depth in these, but the Eastern Conference, we've got the Heat versus the Hawks and the Raptors versus the Bulls. So 7, 8, and 9, 10 respectively. I'm going to go with the Miami Heat beating the Hawks. I just think they have enough defense to try to slow down Trey the best they can, and they'll get through that one. And then I think Raptors versus Bulls, I've got the Raptors progressing out of that one. And then that would leave us with Raptors versus the Hawks for the final seed. And I have the Raptors getting out of the 9-10 and beating the Hawks. I think their length and the helter-skelter way they play could cause some problems for the Hawks and Trae Young. So I'm going the Hawks straight sets out, progressing either the Miami Heat and the Raptors. Who do you have?
Folks, are there 2 more inconsistent teams you could match up against each other than the Miami Heat and the Atlanta Hawks? I mean, that is a tough call. I'll go with Miami just because Jimmy Butler, I trust those guys a little bit more than I trust Atlanta's roster. So I'll go with Miami winning that game. And then I'm going to go with Chicago. Dumpster fire versus dumpster fire. I'm going to go with Chicago over Toronto. And then I'm going to go Chicago over Atlanta in the loser bracket game to go play sacrificial lamb to the Milwaukee Bucks. But that's what I'm going to go. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I have no idea why. Maybe it's the Patrick Beverley effect. He's going to be the last year he was the president of the play-in last year with Minnesota. Maybe he's going to be the president of on the East Coast this year. So I'll go
jump on the scorers table again. Back to back playing champs.
Yeah,
back to back.
Like he was Willis Reed or something. God rest his soul.
Like getting some hats. Back to back playing champs.
Yeah, back to back.
That's fair enough. I mean, it's a hard one to pick, but all 4 of these teams have been wildly inconsistent. And that's why they're in the play-ins. You can't call it. Off to the West, we've got Lakers versus Minnesota and New Orleans versus OKC. That's 7, 8, and 9, 10 respectively. I have the Lakers beating Minnesota, especially after the dumpster fire they're going through right now. I have New Orleans beating OKC. I have New Orleans then beating Minnesota. So same tact as the East for me. I'm having the 9 seed will get through and the 7 seed will get through for me, Pro. But I think New Orleans are playing some good basketball. I think they'll do just enough, and they got some length and size to really bother Minnesota in that following round.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I really want to take Oklahoma City. I do. But I love Trey Murphy. Obviously Ingram and what he's done over the last year with that team. They've had a lot of injury stuff, but McCollum, him, Trey Murphy, they got shooting. I'd probably go with them, but Giddey, man. I don't know, that backcourt of Shea and him. If Steven Adams is the 5, I would say OKC, but you know what? I'm going to go with New Orleans in that game. And then the 7-8. Oh, boy. I mean, the free throw differential is going to be 522-4 in that one with the Lakers. So
they're getting the Lakers. The Lakers are getting in.
The Lakers are getting in. Yeah, so the Lakers get in there, and then Minnesota, Oklahoma City. What'd you have, Bogues? You have Minnesota winning that one, the losers?
I had Minnesota, New Orleans, and I had New Orleans winning it.
Okay, I'm going to go with Oklahoma City winning the loser bracket, and then... No, I'm sorry, they're out. I apologize. They're out already. New Orleans against Minnesota. I'm going to have New Orleans beating Minnesota, yeah. As much as I want to see Edwards, play in the playoffs, I just don't think... I think with losing McDaniel is a huge loss for them. He's a great defender. He's just a good player. And losing him, you don't know what's going to happen with Rudy. I think it's going to be a tough one. So, I'm going to go with you on that one.
So we're the same. It'll be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to the play-ins. All right, Aussie Watch, the last one for the year we're going to do. Brought to you by Dabble, the social betting experience. Stream everything from a series of weekly sport-related shows with a regular host like Josh Jeans and Olin Teckers, all the way to Sky Racing. Follow, copy, bet, and stream live. Go and download the app at the App Store. Have a dabble. Dabble socially, most importantly, gamble responsibly. So the Aussie Watch this week, I'm just going to decide to do the season numbers for our wrap and just give our final bon voyage to the Aussies. Obviously, the winner by unanimous decision is Josh Giddey. So congratulations to him. He has played very, very well and deserves, everything that he's got coming to him. I mean, he's playing fantastic basketball. But we'll start with Paddy Mills. So his worst scoring season in 10 years, pro, attributed to not playing a lot late in the season. Numbers weren't horrible, 6.2 points, 1.2 rebounds, 1.4 assists, 36% from three. Just out of the rotation completely. Going to be interesting to see where he ends up next season. But an okay season from Paddy, but obviously would have liked to have played more. Dyson Daniels, he had a pretty good middle of the season, then got hurt. Numbers reflected that. 3.8 points, 3.2 rebounds, 2.3 assists. 31.4% from three. That's probably the one thing that he really needs to improve. He's going to be out there because defensively he's way above where a rookie should be. And I know they love his defense there and his length and his size, what they're doing down there in New Orleans. So he had a pretty okay year to get his feet wet, but the three ball's got to put some work in there just to get it to a 34% level. Then all of a sudden you're a 3-and-D guy and you're going to make a very good living in the league. Delvedova, 1.5 points, 1.3 assists, 33% from the three. Mainly garbage time this season for Delhi, but he's there for more a cultural leadership role in Sacramento, and he might be the guru that got him there, pro. Who knows? But they're back in the playoffs. Jock Landale, 6.6 points, 4.1 rebounds, 1 assist
Huge night tonight, by the way. Huge night, by the way.
He's been playing really well. What were his numbers tonight?
I think he had something like 15. Hold on, let me check real quick. He had a great first half. He was dunking, rolling. Hold on, just give it to me real quick. Let me give it to you real quick here. Boom. Sorry about this. Phoenix,
15 and 8. 15, 8 and 2.
My fault. Yeah. Big game
15, 8 and 2, 7 for 13 from the field. So, look, he's fallen out of the rotation since the KD. As we spoke last week, KD's gotten healthy and found his legs. He's fallen out in lieu of Bismack Biyombo. But he's had a great year. I think the 25% from three would be frustrating. Jock, he's a better shooter than that, and I think that's something that he will assess in the offseason and try to get better. But 6 and 4 on a very good team should put him in good stead to be, picked up by someone or even back in Phoenix for another year. So good on Jock there. Josh Giddey, 16.6 points, 7.9 rebounds, 6.2 assists. He's at 32.5% from three, pro, and that's an improvement on what he did last season, and I think he's got more improving to do. But if you can, like we said, 34% is a good mark to be at, so you just can't be that muck constant, we're going to dare you to shoot guy. If he knocks down 1 or 2, goes 1 for 3, 2 for 5, all of a sudden it's respectable enough. It just opens his game up more, and I think we've seen that this season. Jack White, 1.2 points, 1 rebound, mainly garbage time with the Denver Nuggets, but had a very, very good season, double-double in the G League. Josh Green, his numbers grew, 9.1 points, 3 rebounds, 1.7 assists per game, 40% from three, pro. Keep in mind for everyone, 2 years ago as a rookie, he was 16% from the three. Last season, he was 35.9%, and now he's at 40% from three, so he's done fantastic there. And Xavier Cooks has started his first NBA game, had very good numbers this last week. Obviously, they're not in the playoffs, so they're trying out different things, but finishes his first NBA season with 3.8 points and 3.8 rebounds a game, which is not too bad considering he was in for a lot of garbage time for like 30-odd seconds. So his numbers definitely not too shabby. And I think he's proven that he can be a pretty good 4-5 that can 1 through 5 switch and is active enough to get deflections and steals. So hopefully Washington give him an opportunity. I assume he'll be playing Summer League in Vegas for the Wizards, and will be going back to prepare for another season with the Wizards the next season. He signed a 4-year deal, I believe non-guaranteed. So each one of those seasons needs to be re-guaranteed. But that's the Aussie Watch, Pro. Anyone stand out for you besides the obvious?
Yeah, the obvious for Jack White, the biggest stats that he has to understand is 3.7, 2.6. It takes his check to get direct deposited in 3.8 seconds from the midnight on the 1st and the 15th, and then it takes him about 4.2 seconds to cash that motherfucker. So I don't really worry about his 1.2 and 1.0. I think he'll be doing just well at night.
Yeah, he'll be fine. But he's had a great jump. His G League numbers, I think he's at 20 and 10, so he's doing well. But yeah, one guy I forgot to mention, sorry, Matisse Thybulle. He had a much better finish to the season. 7.4 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 1.4 assists, along with 1.7 steals. And get this, Pro, we were hard on his three-pointer shooting. With Portland, he was 38.8% from three. So it's amazing what a change of scenery can do for some players, and Matisse is a product of that. It just did not look right or feel right for him in Philly this last season. Goes to a greener pasture, albeit they were struggling, but found his way back into form, and he'll be in their rotation moving forward. So congrats to all the Aussies, and congrats to Josh Giddey, the Robo's official Aussie Player of the Year, as it would be for most people that are doing a similar thing to us. NBL Australian news: Will McDowell-White has elected to stay in New Zealand. I think this is great for the NBL. He was a star player for the New Zealand Breakers, a star Australian player at least in that final series against the Sydney Kings. Had a great year for the most part in the NBL. And I just think, I heard, the rumours Perth were going to try to go after him along with Keanu Pinder. I love to see guys like that staying with their teams and keeping some parity in the league, which is good. Bull Coyle stays in Cairns. Ouchie for us, because I know we were after him at some point, and I know a lot of other teams we were having conversations, but he elected to stay in Cairns for one more year, which is interesting. Jason Kadee has left Brisbane and gone to the Adelaide 36ers. Just a veteran presence that they probably need there at the point guard spot. And, Adelaide definitely are soul searching after being one of the biggest spending teams and once again not making the playoffs. They've got a lot of work to do there. And I'm hearing some chirps, Pro, that Matthew Dellavedova could be back in the NBL next season. These are unconfirmed rumours, but there is some stuff circling that Melbourne United are once again the front runners for his services in the NBL. So it'll be interesting to see whether he makes that track back from the NBA, Pro, and that's all got in Australian news this week.
Hey, Bogues, it'll keep pumping in the off season. So interesting stuff to say the least.
It will. All right, stats, useful, useless. Got another Lakers follow up for you.
Bogues. I got a couple of two after you're done, but go ahead.
All right, I'm going to go with the Lakers follow up because I posted about their free throw run, and
sure.
It is pretty up there, and I asked StatMuse, like, what does this look like all time? Like, where are they at? And they're not even in the top 20, but these are the biggest free throw disparities in NBA history, Pro. The Los Angeles Lakers are number one. They had an 861 free throw disparity over the course of an 82-game season in 1971-72. Probably more later in life, the 2017-18 Charlotte Hornets had a 722 free throw disparity, which is interesting because they weren't very good. I think it was the year they made the playoffs, but they weren't that good. Philly in 2000 were 617 disparity. So I thought they'd be in the top 20, but the kicker for the Lakers is they didn't really have that edge early in the season. But when they've had this little push with their run, it started about the halfway point. They've definitely got the brunt of the whistle. So a stat we probably need to look up is who's had the best disparity in the second half of a season. I would like to bet that they are up there. And another stat to coincide with that, Pro, I did some research, and as of last week, with a few games remaining, the Lakers were 23rd in the league in drives per game. So that's actually a stat these days, which I just learned. But in drives per game, they were 23rd in the league. So why would I bring that up? Because generally you're getting fouled more when you attack the paint. They're 23rd in attacking the paint. OKC, Indiana, and New York lead the league in drives per game. So anyway, that's my roundup. I think there's a little bit of smoke to to the fire there. Lakers are definitely getting the benefit of the whistle, and just wanted to state that in our useful or useless. You don't need to give me an answer on that one, but that's just relaying on last week. So I'll get to my first. You got anything on that, on the free throw stuff, bro?
No, Bogues, I didn't even pay attention to it like when you just said it like a couple of weeks ago. And then you mentioned it to me, and then we did it in the show, and then it just makes sense. I think that a couple of factors. A, they wanted them in, so of course they're going to give them more of a whistle. And the second thing is, I think that like as they started getting some momentum, those guys probably got a little bit more engaged in the game, engaged on drives and stuff. But definitely they're getting help because they can't. The NBA cannot have these guys. They can't have them get eliminated again and not get out of the play-in.
23rd in the league in drives, though, and having the biggest free throw disparity in the second half of the season is pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy because generally with a team that's more aggressive and getting to the line, is getting in the paint. Unless they're just pump faking the shit out of everyone from three. All right. Most games with a plus-minus total of plus 25 this season. I know you love plus-minus, but most games with a total of over 25 plus-minus. Who would you have as number one, bro? If you had to guess.
The only we've been hearing about Jokic all fucking year with this plus-minus, so I'm going to go with Jokic. But
he's number two. He's got 7. Okay. Along with Jason Tatum, who's also 7th in over 25 plus minus. Number 8, Josh Hart with the Knicks. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, he was a trade that we both said flew under the radar and was a pretty good pickup. And we can't buy too much into plus minus, but he's definitely positive when he gets on the floor, bro. So useful, useless.
It's definitely useful, and you could tell because of what he's done with the Knicks since he's gotten there. Like they were such a different team, and it was such a under the carpet move, like to get him. Like, oh, Josh Hart, nice little player, averages a little bit of points, rebounds well for a guard, for a wing, but man, I'll tell you what, the difference of that team since trade deadline when they got him to now has been remarkable. And he's got a lot, even though he doesn't he's not flashy, he's a lot to do with what they've done there. So in their season this year. So I would say definitely useful.
Yeah, I got useful as well. I think he's a very, very good player for him. He plays a great role for him, and it's no surprise they're doing well. All right, since the trade deadline, Dinwiddie has more assists per game than Luka.
Really?
And Bridges has more points per game than Durant. Useful, useless.
Huh. I was like, useful. What the hell? That's a hell. Yeah. I mean, Luka's assist numbers compared to that, and then Dinwiddie. I mean, with the team he had to go to, not a lot of options there. And then Bridges with more like I thought Bridges was going to be maybe a little bit like a Middleton, that can guard people. Man, I didn't expect him to sort of have some of the scoring nights that he's had. It's been very fun to watch, man. He's good. Brooklyn definitely did well on that trade going forward. But yeah, I'd say definitely useful for sure.
Yeah, useful. It just shows the other side of the trade. It's probably not spoken about as much, right? Everyone's speaking about the Kyrie trade. Everyone's speaking about the Durant side of things. But there's the other side, and I think those teams got some goods out of that trade. So it's good to see. I think very useful. All right, last one. Clay leads the league in 3-point field goal makes this season, pro. Over 100. There's only 5 other times in NBA history that a player has hit more than 300 threes in a season. Would you happen to know who those 5 are, pro?
Fuck no. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. So leads the league in 3-point makes only...
So he leads the league in 3-point makes this season. He's over 300, but to crack the 300, historically, NBA history, it's only happened 5 times in NBA history where someone has surpassed 300 mark.
All right. Steph, obviously, right?
Yep.
Harden had those years in Houston. I would have to say him.
That's it. It's a trick question. Steph Curry's done it 4 times.
Oh, okay.
Steph Curry's done it 4 times, and Harden's done it once. Very, very good. Harden's the one that you wouldn't really think about, but yeah, those Houston years, man, he used to hoist them up. So, but Clay, a great bounce back year, shooting the 40% again, leading the league in 3-point field goal makes. Useful, useless.
Useful. The guy's a fucking hell of a 3-point shooter, man. He's unbelievable to watch. I would say useful. I mean, to be able to do that, it's only been done 5. Now, I understand where the game is today. Obviously, there's a lot more takes and a lot more makes, but I mean, the guy does it at that clip, and you have to throw in the injury stuff he's been able to go get after as far as get by and turn the corner with. And then not only that, he had to get in rhythm this year. He was pretty brutal this year early on, and and then he had to like build up his strength, build up his consistency, and then to be able to do that and lead it throughout the year after coming off the Achilles and knee. Hats off to him, man.
Yeah, useful. Good on him. Love to see a good comeback story. And they're a sleeping giant still. Wiggins gets back on the floor in the next week or two, hopefully. And they're still the defending champs. As bad as the season they've had, it's not up to their standards. And I think the route to go through Sacramento, which we'll discuss next week, I think they got a chance to float back in. All right, what do you have?
Bogues,
you got some stats for us, huh?
Yes, sir. Bogues. First off, it's not really a fact. I mean, it's not really a useful still, but there's one player to shoot 50, 40, 90 this year. And I'll give you 5 names. I'm going to give you 5 names. Steph, Durant, Kennard, Bojan Bogdanovic from Detroit, Trey Murphy III. Who do you think out of that list has shot 50, 40, 90?
I'm going to go with Trey Murphy just because
Close.
It's the most random. Damn. Bogdanovic?
Close. All right, so no. So Murphy was 48, 90, and 40. Bogdanovic was 48-8, 88-4, 41-1. Kennard, 49-2, 94-9, 49-4. Curry, 49-2. He was damn close. 91-4, 42-6. And Durant, 56%, 91-9, 40.4. 50, 40, 90. All right, Bogues. And I'm going to connect this next stat with a fact-fake news. Just let me get it real quick. Okay, so the last 4 MVPs to play all 82 games: Kobe in 08, Garnett in 04, Duncan in 02, Jordan in 98. My question to you would be, fact or fake news, there will be another MVP in the next 5 years to play all 82 games.
Fake news.
Yeah, no shit. No doubt. No doubt.
No
They
shit.
should actually give the 82 game guy the fucking MVP.
They didn't have an Iron Man trophy. We used to call that in the locker room, like, if you played every game, it was called the Iron Man Award. They should do that. They should honestly do that. Like, whoever, everyone gets an Iron Man trophy. But in these days, if you're a club, if I'm a GM or a coach, I'm not doing it. If I've got KD on my team, or we've got 3 games left and they're not important to our chances, I'm not playing him. I'm just not going to risk him playing. You see, Ja Morant got hurt, right? He's hurt his hand. I don't know. I haven't seen the reports, but he hurt his hand in one of those dead rubber games. Didn't matter, right? So then it's lose-lose for organizations, because if you play him all 82 and then your player gets hurt in game 81, and then you got all the fans and media and talking heads saying, "Why did you play him? You're an idiot. You should have rested." And then when you rest him, it's like, "Oh, this is bullshit." So you can't win, but I would protect my asset as much as I can. So it's not going to happen.
You can never win, Bogues. You can never win. I don't give a fuck who's saying it. Nobody gives a fuck about the regular season. All right? Nobody. Because at the end, all we're talking about is who's playing in June. And you could be like, you could play to the fans and the internet people and say, "Oh, we're not going to rest our guys." And then the second, they'll fucking celebrate you. They'll fucking celebrate you, man of the year. And then the second somebody gets hurt, they roast you. So fuck that. Yeah. Rest your guys. Get full strength in the playoffs, and that's what I care about. Yes, I do care about guys only playing, not playing. They should be able to play 70%, 75%. I'm a huge fan of that, and trying to get guys, the league, closer to that number for sure. But fuck that. If a guy gets hurt, no chance. Great numbers. I'll give you one more, and then I'll give you my fact or fake news, and I'm out. Udonis Haslem, today, 24 points, made 9 field goals, 3 threes. Rest of the season, 3 points, 1 field goal, no threes. So, yeah, how about that? Udonis Haslem.
Useful. He's trying to get that next year's contract, get that max next season. But yeah, I saw that. They were laughing about how they've unveiled
stat news.
Stretch Haslam. But I saw Spo's comments as well. He said, "The night before the game, I was stressed. Do I start Haslam? Don't I? What do I do? Because I'm trying to send him off right." So it was a great story. You love to see it, and hopefully the Miami Heat aren't done.
I remember seeing him, and he played at Miami Senior High School, and he played for a guy named Frank Martin, who was a head coach of South Carolina, whatever.
Yep, I remember him. Yeah, yep.
Dude, he's it's unbelievable just how this stuff goes full circle. All right, last thing, fact or fake news. There will be one other Australian that wins the Bogues Australian of the Week in the next decade besides Josh Giddey. Fact or fake news?
Whew.
Tough one.
Decade.
Yeah.
It's a big call. It's a big call.
Bogues is some guy that you're coaching against in the 9 and under league that might.
Yeah, well, Dyson Daniels' younger brother's pretty good, actually. He's coming up. But I'm going to have to go fake news. I think Giddy's going to carry the light. The fall of Ben Simmons is here. I don't think he's going to hit numbers anywhere close to that in the rest of his NBA career. So I'm going to have to go with no one else is going to do it.
Bogues, does he have to come on the show to accept his award? Like, how does that work now? Do we get him back? Or
yeah, we give him a beer holder, like a stubby holder. That's what we give him. Road Bogues insignia. But yeah, he's gonna own this award for a long. I hope there's more. I think Josh Green's got a chance. The more and more he gets better, but he's not gonna have the ball in his hands as much as Josh Giddey is. And Giddey's gonna. I'm just talking about a week. For them.
Yeah, I'm just talking about 1 week, not for the year. Do you think somebody's gonna take it from him 1 week?
Oh, he lost some this week.
Oh, he did.
Josh Green had this year. Yeah, Josh Green had that 1 year, one week where he's averaged 20. I think that 1 week he was bombing threes, and I think Matisse had a really good week defensively. So we maybe gave him that out of sympathy because we're sick of giving it to Josh. But he'll definitely lose a week here or there, especially if he's hurt. And I forget that he's back on the on the roster for about 3 months. But for the year though, that's his award. He's going to get those this year. We've got some questions, and then we'll take off, Pro. A few of these are for me, and some you can chime in. This one's definitely for you, Pro. You can give the food take on this side. As a player. This is from Facebook. As a player, which was your favorite arena to play in and when in the NBA, and why? So, and then Pro, same question for you. Which was your favorite arena to go to as a fan when growing up, and why? But I guess you can answer that as an assistant / fan /
yeah. I mean, whatever. Yeah. I'll give 2 answers. One, because I'm a homer, it'll be the Boston Garden. First of all, I was born 300 yards from the old Boston Garden when I grew up. Before I moved out of that city, I was right there. So it was special. Now they knocked the original one down and they built another one 3 feet from it. But that was my neighborhood. I love it. It's my home. I love the arena. It's sort of it's got great lighting. It's got, the fans are right on top of you. I just love getting in and out of there. One of the worst visiting locker rooms in the history of mankind. I think POWs were treated better than fucking the visiting team in Boston. But I think, for that was great. But I think it's really tough, Bogues, in my opinion, to beat fucking Madison Square Garden. I'm not a big New York fan. I don't like going to New York. But I tell you what, the lighting, the fans, the big time atmosphere, you got Celebrity Row. People show up on time to games early. They're hecklers, old school. I think Madison Square. You take my hometown out of Boston out of it. I think Madison Square got it for me.
Yeah, I would say the same. Madison Square Garden for me, mainly because I just love when you win there and the fans boo the shit out of them. Their home fans just no matter what, they could be 81-0 and they lose that 82nd game, their fans are going to boom and abuse, much like Philly. But Madison Square Garden, I always had good games there, and just it felt like a whole different vibe of an NBA game the way they put it on there. The organ or whatever the hell they're playing, just the feel. It felt like I went there in college as well, part of the NIT, and it just has a different feel to rocking up to Indiana or even LA. It just. Yeah. I
was at that game scouting for the Celtics when you played. You were there. I think, if I'm not mistaken, was it Oklahoma? Was that when we lost
to UConn by 40? No.
Yeah, you didn't play well. Your team did not play well.
We played Texas Tech with Bobby Knight. They beat us in the first round, and then we played in the 3-4 playoff against UConn, and Emeka Okafor dunked on me about 8 straight times.
I was only there one game. I think Oklahoma State, I want to say, played. I could be getting my years all mixed up, but I saw you originally in Greece. That's the first time I saw you play. And then I saw you when you were at Utah. There, I could have sworn like Luke Ridnour was playing, but maybe I got my years mixed up.
Nah, he was gone. Yeah, you're getting
okay. So that was the next
gone.
year. But I was at one of your games. I think Texas Tech. I was at that game.
I was all right that game. I think I had a double with bad from the field though, and like 6 assists. But UConn was the one that gave me nightmares, and Rick Majerus riled me for like 2 weeks after that. So I remember that one. That one's still ingrained in my head. But that, New York for me, and that was from Sean Purslow via Facebook. So we appreciate that one. Next one's probably from me. This is from Twitter, Helen at Hoopshots. Keen to hear what the plan is for the Sydney Flames this offseason after a number of years not in the playoffs. Is it business as usual for re-signing players and free agency, or will the coaching issue mean you need to delay recruiting for the 2023-24 season? Well, good question. Yeah, a lot's been going on. I don't know to disclose exactly what's going on for obvious reasons for those that have followed. You can read about that in the media, and I don't want to get a lawyer letter, but yeah, we're working with somebody right now. We hopefully should have something formalized in the next week or so. The league has pushed free agency another couple of days, I believe. So we can't, technically talk to people and put contracts together and all that until that time. But we are aware that the Flames have not been where they need to be, win and loss wise the last couple of seasons, and we are, definitely committed to improving that. The Kings are doing very well, and we don't like it that the Flames are not. So we're going to fix that. We have a great group. We cross-resource a lot with the Kings and the Flames between myself and Luke Longley and Chris Pongrass and Paul Smith and the Denholm family. And Victoria Denholm has taken the reins of the Flames now and taken it on as a full-time job. So we're excited to have her involved, and her daily ongoings with that have been really, really positive with speaking to different people and getting some help. So it's just going to take some time to rebuild, and it's not easy to win in WNBL. Like any league, it's any professional league. It's not easy to win. You got to have a good group of imports. You got to have a good core group of Australians, and you got to have some young talent to sustain longevity in WNBL, and that's what we're committed to do, and we're in the process of doing that. So hopefully you'll hear some good news, I hope, in the next week, from what I understand, and that'll be really good for the club. So thanks for that question, Helen. Last one is from CoreyTime23 on Instagram. What are your tips as a big switching out on shifty guards in pick and roll and getting stuck on them, guarding them one-on-one, essentially, Pro? You can answer this as well. But for me, first thing is know your scouting report. So when you're going into a game, know, is this guard a driver? Does he generally want to get in the paint, 2 feet in the paint? So basically leaning more towards getting to the hoop than shooting the three. Is it a guy that wants you to back up and shoot the three? Is it a guy that wants to crossover and get by me? So that's what you got to figure out. If you switch out to a guy that's a non-shooter and he's very, very quick and wants to break you down, give him space. Know whatever that space is, whether it's a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, whatever makes you comfortable to not let you get beat off the dribble. On a non-shooter, that's your number one priority. So don't let him get in the paint at any cost. Make him shoot a pull-up free throw jumper. If he makes it, you shake his hand. Now, if you're on a guy that's a three-point shooter, this is where it's changed in the NBA, where historically, if you were a big, the messaging was early, when I first got in the league, if you switch onto a guard, was, just don't let him get in the paint. Don't let him blow by you. Whereas now, if you switch on a three-point shooting guard, it's run him off at all costs will help you behind. So what that means is I need to get 2 feet above the three, run that player off the three, even make him drive by me. Even if I get blown by, I need help from teammates. So that comes down to your team principles. The problem with all that, Pro, as you'd know, is when you've got a player that can do both. You've got a player that's Steph Curry or Klay Thompson probably before the injury, a guy that can break you down and get by you just as well as he can pull up and shoot in your face, then you got to mess with him. You got to, what a lot of people forget is on offense, you can pump fake and you can jab step. You can do the same on defense. People forget that. You can fake and fade, act like you're going to run him off the line full speed, then pull up, then jab. You can do those things defensively and try to keep the guard guessing on what you're going to do. Is he going to come up and guard me? Oh, it looks like he's coming up. Or now he's backing off. What do I do? If you let a guard if you're just standing there in a stance and you let a guard break you down, most guards will get by you or get whatever shot they want off. So, and sometimes, look, you're going to look a fool. You're going to fake at them and they're not going to react and they're still going to blow by you. But that's kind of my thing with switching on pick and rolls. Just making sure they don't, if they are that player that's got both skills, make sure they just don't have an easy walk-up three and make sure it's not a complete blow-by. You want to be kind of in between, Pro. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that.
It's a lot to process right there, Bogues. That's a clinic in how to, guard a switch. Look, I think that, it's definitely personnel driven. Like you said, it's, what they can do, shot, can they drive it? Can they do both? I think that with a big switching out into a guard, I think you got to be consistent. Two things I think got to be really important. I think you got to cut off half their court, meaning I think you have to push them to one side. Now, obviously, you push them, depending on where you get the switch from, it's usually up top. I'd probably force him to the weak hand first and not let him get to that other side of the court. If he's going to beat you weak hand, let him beat you weak hand. I think you have to show your hands. You watch Rudy Gobert guard pick and roll. Like a lot of times, slower bigs, guards. I teach guards to try to move them side to side. And a lot of bigs, they're slow, they're awkward, and they use their hands a lot to hold. So I think you got to try to stop that. So you have to have your hands up. Kawhi Leonard always says he always wants the offensive player to see his palms, when he's defending somebody. So have your hands up, not above your head, but to the sides, to make, the court smaller, to take away a little space. So I would push up, force him one direction, have active hands. You're not going to be able to stay in front all the time. I would push him, get on his hip and just not let him get to the other hand and drive him into your help and then just force them in the toughest shot. Look, a lot of times on switches, bigs are going to get beat. I get it. But you don't want to leave your feet. You don't want to let them change direction multiple times. You want to keep them to the one side. You want to show your hands. And you want to contest every shot and try to stay on your feet, especially if it's 15 to 17 feet out or a three-point shot. You stay on your feet. You just contest the shot. Don't foul the three-point shooter. If you're going to leave your feet and foul in the paint, you're going to do that. But force him to one side, show your hands, and don't let him change direction. Keep him to one side of the floor, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's you're never going to get it right. You're not going to get it right every time. It's just if you can kind of focus on making that guard take a shot that's not their go-to. So if they cross you 15 times and shoot a fadeaway over you and make it, hey, that's a great job. But if you just let them one dribble pull up, three in your eye, or blow by you for a dunk, then that's your fault, right? So whenever you can make, and in the NBA, that's a frustrating thing. You can play perfect defense for 23 seconds, and one of these guys just is a superstar and hits a tough shot. You just got to be like, hey. You see that a lot with Steph. Look at the guys guarding him. They just look at the bench and be like, the coach is just like, hey, nothing we can do about it. Let's go. Let's bring the ball back up. So, but yes, scouting, which is hard to do in juniors, I get it. But just even knowing which one's the weak hand. For most juniors, their weak hand's their left if they're a right-hander, and if it's their right if they're a left-hander. But yeah, just play them in between. And just to finish real quick, Pro, we've got some NBA pettiness that I love. A former teammate of mine just got this texted to me. Draymond Green. So when Draymond punched Jordan Poole, Mr. Rudy Gobert on the day tweeted, "Insecurity is always loud."
Oh boy!
What do you think Draymond tweeted today?
I would say something to the effect of "insecurity, blah blah blah."
Is always
just
loud.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah. He sure did. I just reposted it. I like that kind of petty because Draymond held those receipts and put it back on Rudy. So we'll leave that one with the listeners. Thank you again. Next week, tune in. We'll do our playoff previews and give our picks about who we think is going to progress. Let's see if our plans are right, and we will all see you next week. Thanks, bro.
All right. Thanks, folks. See you guys next week.
Let's get Grove.